The sky was calm. The stars twinkled above the thick green jungle. But then something tore through the night. A silver object came burning through the clouds, spinning wildly, on fire. Birds screamed and scattered as the object crashed into the earth, slamming into trees and rocks. The ground shook. Trees fell. Fire lit up the dark forest. Inside the smoking wreckage, something moved. Story, Zherani gasped. Her chest felt crushed. The air burned her lungs. She reached out with trembling fingers, touching the cracked glass of her escape pod. Her claws scratched the surface. The glass gave a low hiss before finally breaking open. Thick air rushed inside. It was hot, heavy, and filled with strange scents. It was hard to breathe. Too hard. Her body shook. Her head throbbed. System failing, whispered the broken voice from her suit's translator. Zherani pushed herself up, crawling out of the pod. Her feet sank into wet soil. Green vines tangled around her legs. She was shaking, cold with fear, and sweat covered her skin. This wasn't her world. This wasn't Luvaxis. This was the place her people called a Deathworld. Earth. She turned slowly, eyes glowing faint blue in the darkness. Around her, thick jungle pressed in. Every tree was too large. Every sound was too loud. The insects buzzed like machines. And somewhere deep inside the forest, something growled. Zherani stumbled forward, away from the wreck. She had to hide. She had to think, but her body was weak. The gravity here pulled her down like chains. She couldn't walk straight. Suddenly, her hand touched a plant. It burned her skin. She yelped, falling backward into the dirt. The plant's green leaves had thin red hairs, acidic, sharp. She'd barely touched it, and now her hand was blistering. This world is poison, she whispered. Back home, plants were soft. Nothing attacked unless you attacked first. But here, even the plants were predators. She crawled away, hand clutched to her chest. Her eyes scanned the forest. She needed water, shelter, safety. But she knew there was no real safety here. Earth was wild. Earth was chaos. Earth was death. Still, she couldn't just sit and die. Zherani pulled herself up with all her strength. Her body wasn't made for this place, but her spirit was still alive. She would not give up. She moved carefully, each step slow and painful. Her legs trembled. The leaves above blocked the stars. Creatures chirped and screamed in the distance. A pair of glowing eyes blinked at her from the bushes, but disappeared when she looked. Everything was watching her, waiting for her to fall. She found a small cave at the edge of a rocky hill. It was narrow, dark, and cold inside, but at least it was hidden. She slipped inside and curled up against the stone. Her body shook, her fingers bled. Her breathing was shallow. This was supposed to be a scouting mission, simple, quick. She was supposed to observe Earth from orbit. But something went wrong. A weapon had hit her ship. A warning shot, or a mistake she didn't know. All she knew now was that she had crashed. Alone, and this planet. It wanted her dead. She turned on her communicator. It blinked weakly. Signal blocked. Atmospheric interference. No help was coming. Not tonight. A drop of water fell from the cave roof and touched her cheek. She turned her face upward, opened her mouth, and caught another drop. It tasted bitter but drinkable. She closed her eyes. She remembered home, soft lights, warm winds, peace. Here she had sharp rocks, burning plants, and animal screams. Tears filled her eyes. She didn't want to die here, not like this. Not on this cursed world. But then another sound. Footsteps. Heavy, slow, crunching leaves outside. The cave. Zherani's eyes shot open. She held her breath. Something was out there. She pressed herself against the cave wall. Claws ready, body frozen. The footsteps stopped. Then came a voice. A human voice. What the hell is this? Zherani's heart pounded. A shadow moved at the cave entrance. A shape tall, broad shoulders, carrying something on his back, the human leaned forward. Peering into the dark, she held still, too scared to move. His eyes scanned the cave. Then he saw her. She bared her teeth, her claws glowing blue in warning. The human blinked. And then he smiled. "Whoa. Easy there," he said softly. "You look like you've had a rough landing." She didn't understand his words, but she understood. Something else. He wasn't afraid. Not of her claws. Not of her glowing eyes. Not even of the fact that she wasn't human. And somehow, that scared her more than anything else. Hook. Zherani's claws lit up blue, ready to strike. She had killed smaller beasts with these before. But the human just stood there, calm. His hands were open. His eyes were soft. He didn't raise a weapon. He didn't step back. He whispered something gentle. And smiled again. Zherani didn't understand him, not his words. Not his actions. Not his calm. On her world, if a creature showed claws, others ran or fought. But this human, he only knelt, slowly, and placed something on the ground. A bag. Brown, old, stained. Then, he stepped back. Zherani blinked, confused. The man pointed to the bag, then to her. "For you," he said softly. Her claws stayed up, glowing with warning light. But her body swayed, weak and tired. Her stomach ached. She hadn't eaten since the crash. She sniffed the air. Something inside the bag smelled strange, smoky, salty, but not poisonous. The human didn't move. He just watched her. After a long silence, Zherani slowly dropped her claws. She crawled forward a bit, never looking away from him. Her hands shook as she pulled the bag closer. Inside food. Strips of dried meat, nuts, a can of something. She didn't know what these things were, but her instincts told her they were safe. She bit into one piece. Cautiously, her eyes widened. It wasn't just food, it was energy. Earth meat was dense, rich, strong. She ate slowly, watching him. The man smiled again. "Name's Jake," he said, tapping his chest. "Jake." She didn't respond. He pointed to her. "You?" Zherani stared. Jake tried again, tapping his chest. "Jake." Then pointing at her. She understood. Sort of. She pressed a hand to her chest. "Zherani," she whispered. Jake nodded. "Zherani," he said carefully. It was close enough. Another silence passed. She had finished eating, feeling a little stronger. Her mind cleared a bit, but she was still scared. Why was he helping her? Earth was dangerous. She knew that. She'd studied it before coming. Humans were called Deathworlders. Their world shaped them into monsters, survivors, warriors. No alien species wanted war with them, not because of numbers, but because of what they could endure. Yet here was one of them, helping her. "Not what I expected," she muttered to herself in her native tongue. Jake tilted his head. "What's that?" She shook her head. He stood and slowly turned his back to her. He looked up at the sky, then at her broken pod down the hill. "You're not going to survive long out here," he said. "Too many things want to kill you. Plants, bugs, cold." He paused, then added, "I can help if you'll let me." Zherani didn't know the words, but she felt the tone. A mix of concern and something else. She didn't fully trust him. But he could have killed her already. Instead, he gave her food. He gave her a name. And he walked away with his back turned, showing he wasn't afraid. No one on Luvaxis would have done that. Zherani stood slowly. Her legs still felt heavy. But she followed him, step by step. They walked through the jungle for a while. Jake moved carefully, like he knew where danger waited. He cut plants with a sharp knife. He checked the wind. He listened to the sounds. Every time Zherani heard something strange, he'd already reacted. He knew this world like it was part of him. Zherani followed close. Her feet hurt. Her suit had scratches. Her left hand still burned from the earlier plant sting. Jake stopped near a clearing. There, hidden under thick branches, was a small camp. A tent, a fire pit, a pile of wood. Tools. It wasn't much. But to Zherani, it looked like a fortress. Jake pointed to a flat spot near the tent. You can rest there. Safe for now. She looked around. No traps, no cages. Just space. Jake started preparing a fire. He wasn't forcing her to stay. He wasn't locking her in. And for the first time since crashing here, she felt a little less alone. That night, Zherani sat near the fire, wrapped in a rough blanket Jake had given her. She didn't need warmth. Her body regulated heat better than humans, but she liked the texture. It felt like something soft. From home. Jake sat across from her, chewing dried meat, sharpening his knife. Zherani watched the flames dance. The stars above seemed sharper here, closer. Why aren't you scared of me? She finally asked. Jake looked at her. He didn't understand the words, but maybe he felt the question. He shrugged. I've seen worse, he said with a smile. You're not scary. Zherani stared at him. No one had ever said that to her before. Hook, the flower, didn't look dangerous. It was pink, small, and swayed gently in the wind. Zherani bent down to smell it, just curious. But before she could even touch it, a long tongue shot out from its center. It missed her cheek by inches. The flower hissed, then closed like a trap. She jumped back, heart racing. Jake didn't even flinch. That's why I told you, he said calmly. Never trust anything pretty on earth. It probably wants to eat you. Story. The forest was beautiful, but it was a lie. Sunlight broke through the tall trees like golden rivers, dancing across green leaves and red petals. Birds chirped in strange melodies. Water sparkled nearby in a slow-moving stream, but everywhere Zherani looked, something wanted to bite, sting, or kill. A worm the size of her arm tried to wrap around her ankle. A squirrel with red eyes followed her from the trees. Even the water had tiny things swimming inside, sharp, fast, and hungry. This place, she whispered, it punishes the weak. Jake laughed softly. Welcome to Earth. They were out gathering food. Zherani had never hunted before. On her planet, food was picked gently from trees or grown in soft life fields. No one killed. Even meat was lab-grown. But Earth didn't work that way. Don't step there, Jake said suddenly. Zherani froze. 1 foot hovered above a patch of dry leaves. What is it? She asked. He knelt and carefully moved a leaf with his knife. Under its spikes, dozens of them. Brown, sharp, hidden in a hole. A trap. Not man made. Natural. Zherani stepped back, her skin crawling. Earth is always hungry, Jake said. Always. Later, they returned to camp. Zherani dropped her bundle of fruits and bark onto the ground. Jake checked them one by one. This one's fine, he said, placing a purple fruit aside. He picked up another, a red one with shiny skin. This one'll make you puke your guts. Out, he said, tossing it far into the woods. Zherani looked at her hands. So many of the fruits looked similar, but a small mistake could mean death. How do you remember all this? She asked. Jake gave a half smile. I've lived here a long time. She tilted her head. Alone? He nodded. Too long. There was silence. Zherani didn't know what loneliness felt like until now. On Luvaxis, she had friends. Family. Gentle people who whispered instead of shouted. Who created instead of destroyed. But none of them were here. None of them were walking this hell beside her. Only Jake. That night, as she lay under a blanket of leaves beside the fire, she heard something howl in the distance. It wasn't a wolf. Jake said wolves were rare here. This was something worse. Something big. Jake grabbed his rifle. Stay here, he said. Zherani sat up. What is it? He didn't answer. He just looked at her. And that scared her more than any howl. Minutes passed. The howling came again, closer now. Zherani couldn't sit still. She moved carefully through the bushes, Following Jake's trail, she found him standing near a fallen log. Eyes focused on the shadows. There it was. A beast, tall, thin, with bone-white skin stretched over its body. It had no eyes. Its mouth opened sideways, long and full of teeth. It sniffed the air like a dog. Jake lifted his rifle slowly, but before he could shoot, the creature's head snapped in his direction. It heard him. It leapt fast. Zherani screamed. Jake fired once, twice. The bullets hit, but the thing didn't stop. Zherani acted on instinct. She ran forward and slashed with her glowing claws. Aiming for its legs, the creature stumbled. Jake shot again, this time into its open mouth. It dropped. Still. Bleeding. Dead. Zherani stood frozen, blood on her arms. Jake looked at her. You didn't stay in camp, he said, catching his breath. I couldn't, she replied. I couldn't leave you alone. He smiled, just a little. Good. They dragged the body away and burned it. Zherani sat beside the flames afterward, staring at her claws. She had never killed anything before she came to Earth. Now she had to. This world didn't care if you were kind. It only cared if you were strong. And she was learning. Slowly. Painfully. She was learning to survive. Hook. The fire had almost died. Only red embers glowed in the dark. Zherani stirred slightly. In her sleep, hearing a strange sound outside the camp, too quiet to be the wind, too heavy to be a bird. Then, a sharp snap. A branch broke. Her eyes flew open. Something was in the camp. Jake didn't hear it. He was still asleep, his arm under his head, rifle resting just out of reach. Zherani didn't wait. She rose without a sound and saw the shadow crouching over him. Story colon. It was long. Thin. Its back arched like a broken stick, and its limbs bent the wrong way. Pale skin shimmered under the moonlight. It had no eyes, just slits where a nose should be, and a wide mouth that twitched with hunger. Zherani didn't know its name, but the look of it screamed danger. Its claws hovered inches from Jake's chest. She didn't think. She moved. With a hiss, she lunged and slammed into the creature. Her claws struck its side. The beast let out a shriek, high, sharp, almost like a baby crying. Jake jolted awake. What the hell? The creature jumped back, but Zherani was already in front of him, standing tall, arms out, blocking it from reaching him. You need to move, she shouted. He grabbed his rifle, but the creature leaped again, faster. This time, Zherani caught its wrist mid-air. Her bones shook from the force, but she held tight. Her claws glowed brighter than ever, slicing into its flesh. Greenish blood sprayed the ground. It tried to twist free. Jake fired. One shot, then another. The second one hit the creature's throat. It dropped, gasping, bleeding, and twitching. Zherani stood over it, breathing hard. Her arms were shaking. Her legs barely held her up. But she didn't fall. Jake stared at her. Are you okay? He asked softly. She didn't answer. She didn't know how. Her whole body burned from the effort. But deep inside, she felt something strange. Pride. Not because she had killed it, but because Jake was alive, because she had saved him. Later that night, Jake stitched a cut on her shoulder. He was quiet, careful. You didn't have to do that, he said. It was risky. Zherani winced as the needle passed through her skin. You would have died. He chuckled. Maybe, but so could you. She looked at him. Isn't that what friends do? Jake paused. The word hung in the air like smoke. Friends. He smiled gently. Yeah, it is. Zherani felt the warmth of the fire on her face. For the first time, Earth didn't feel like it wanted to eat her alive. At least not tonight. The next morning, the sun rose behind mist-covered trees. Birds sang again. The forest looked calm, almost peaceful, but they both knew better. Jake sat near the edge of camp, checking ammo. Zherani sharpened her claws, using a smooth stone. They were different now, not just two survivors, not just human and alien. They were a team. She glanced at Jake. His clothes were torn. Dirt covered his skin. But he moved with strength, always alert. He wasn't big. He didn't have armor or claws like her, but he fought harder than most soldiers she had known, and she respected him. Later, they explored deeper into the forest. Jake wanted to show her a cave system safe, hidden, and with fresh water. On the way, Zherani noticed something strange. A broken helmet half buried under moss. It was alien tech. Her kind. She ran toward it, brushing dirt away. The helmet was cracked. The symbol on the side was clear: Luvax's Scout Division. Her breath caught in her throat. Others came here, she whispered. Jake looked at the helmet. Yours? She nodded. They didn't make it. She turned to him. If they landed here and died, then why am I still alive? Jake looked around at the thick trees, the hidden dangers. Because you're learning, he said. Because you're fighting. He gave her a small nod. And maybe because you're stronger than you think. Zherani looked at the helmet. Again, this world had eaten her people, but it hadn't eaten her. Not yet. That night she dreamed of home, of soft grass and glowing skies. But in the dream, Earth was there too. Its shadows creeping into the corners. Its cold wind blowing through. Her peaceful fields. And standing between the dream and the nightmare was Jake, holding the line. Hook, the river water shimmered under the morning sun, quiet and clear. Birds chirped nearby. Zherani bent down to wash her arms. Her hands were still stained with dried blood from the creature she had killed last night. She cupped the cold water and splashed it on her face. And then she saw it, a reflection, her own face. But it wasn't the face she remembered. It was harder, leaner. The skin had dark marks, scars healing across her cheek. Her eyes, once bright and soft, were now narrow, alert, and dangerous. She didn't look like a Luvax's scout anymore. She looked like something Earth had made. She dropped the water and stepped back, breathing fast. I'm changing. Story. Zherani sat in silence by the riverbank, shaking. The image in the water haunted her. Her once smooth skin now had scratches, small burns, and bite marks. Her hair had lost its natural glow. Her uniform was torn and dirty. Her claws looked sharper, like they had evolved. But worst of all were her eyes. They looked like Jake's, worn, tired, focused. Earth eyes, the kind of eyes that had seen too much and survived anyway. She felt something strange rise in her chest. Fear? No. Sadness. Loss. Of who she used to be. She was still Zherani, but not the same Zherani who had flown through the stars. Full of hope, confident in her training. This Zherani had killed. This Zherani had learned to crawl, fight, and bleed. She had survived. But at what cost? Jake found her sitting by the water, knees pulled to her chest. He didn't say anything right away. He just sat beside her. After a while, he asked, "You okay?" She didn't answer. Instead, she asked quietly, "Do I still look like me?" Jake tilted his head. "You look like someone who's been through hell and kept going." She looked down. "I don't want to lose who I was." Jake nodded slowly. "You're not losing her. You're adding more to her. Pain changes us." "Yeah, but it also builds us." Zherani didn't speak for a long time. Then finally she whispered, "I feel like this planet is rewriting me." Jake gave a soft smile. "That's what Earth does. It breaks things and then remakes them stronger." She looked into his eyes. "Is that what happened to you?" Jake's smile faded. "I used to be a soldier," he said. "Then I lost everyone, my squad, my family. I came out here because it was quieter than the noise inside my head." He paused. "But then you crashed here, and I stopped being alone." Later that day, Zherani followed Jake into the cave system he had found. It was deep, with long tunnels and cool air. At the end of one tunnel, a small underground spring bubbled from the rocks. "This place is safe," Jake said. "No predators, fresh water, solid walls." Zherani sat down on a smooth rock. She ran her fingers along the cave's wall. Cool and solid. Jake began setting up basic supplies. He gave her a small mirror from his pack. "Here," he said. "You might want to clean up." Zherani took it hesitantly. She held the mirror up slowly. Her reflection was clearer this time. She studied every line, every bruise. She traced her finger along a scar under her chin. Then, tears filled her eyes, but not just from sadness. Somehow, she felt proud too. She had survived things no one from her world ever had. She was still here. Even Earth hadn't broken her completely yet. That night, they made a fire inside the cave. Jake told her stories about his past, funny ones, sad ones. Zherani listened closely, slowly understanding more of his words. He told her about Earth cities, war zones, and his sister who used to tease him. Zherani shared memories of her training, her favorite place on Luvaxis, a field of singing flowers that hummed with wind. They both laughed. They both paused when it hurt too much. And for the first time, the cave didn't feel like a prison. It felt like a home. As the fire crackled, Jake looked at her. "You know," he said, "you're not the same girl who crashed here." She nodded slowly. "But that's not a bad thing," he added. Zherani gave a small smile. "No," she whispered. "It's not." Hook. The wind howled outside the cave like a living thing. Trees cracked. Something large roared in the distance. Rain hit the rocks in waves, and thunder rolled like distant drums. But inside the cave, there was warmth. A small fire glowed. Two figures sat close to it, one human, one alien. The silence between them wasn't cold anymore. Zherani watched Jake's face as he stared into the fire. His eyes were far away, lost in a memory she couldn't see. Then, without looking at her, he whispered, "I used to have a little sister. She was scared of the dark. I always told her, 'You're not alone.'" He paused. "I guess I forgot how much I needed to hear that too." Zherani reached out and gently placed her hand on his. "You're not alone anymore," she said. Story: Jake didn't speak for a long time after that. His hand stayed under hers. His shoulders dropped just a little, like he had let go of something heavy he'd carried for too long. Outside, Earth was still wild. But in that moment, it didn't matter. Zherani had been on this Deathworld for weeks now. She had faced poison plants, hunted beasts, cold nights, and her own fear, but nothing prepared her for the way Jake said that sentence. So quiet, so broken, so human. She could fight monsters. She could outrun storms. But she couldn't fight the pain behind his eyes. So she did the one thing that mattered. She stayed. The next day, the storm passed. Jake and Zherani walked to the edge of a nearby cliff. Below, the world stretched out like a painting. Green forests, sharp mountains, a river cutting through the land like a scar. Jake pointed. "See that curve in the river? If we follow it for another day, there's a bunker. Abandoned. Used to be military. I passed it years ago." Zherani squinted. "Safe? Maybe. Could have supplies. Or even a working radio." Her eyes widened. "Radio?" Jake nodded. "If it works, maybe you can contact your people." Zherani didn't know how to feel. For weeks, she had been trying to survive. Escaping Earth had felt like a dream. Now there was a real chance she could go home. But as she looked at Jake, her heart twisted. What would happen to him? They packed light. Zherani carried a new set of tools, sharpened sticks, a fire starter, and two strange earth fruits she now knew were safe to eat. Jake had his rifle and a small metal box filled with old maps. They walked quietly at first. Path was rough. Rocks slid beneath their boots. Vines grabbed at their legs. At one point, they had to crawl through a tunnel filled with biting insects. Zherani's skin itched for hours, but she didn't complain. Neither did Jake. They were used to Earth now. Its cruelty, its tests. Every step was earned. That night, they rested under a fallen tree. Jake showed her something special, A photo. It was old and worn, the edges curled. In it, a young girl smiled beside a teenage boy in a soldier's uniform. That's her, Jake said softly. My sister Lily. Zherani looked at the girl's face. Bright eyes. Big smile. She looks happy, she said. Jake smiled sadly. She was. He put the photo back in his jacket, close to his heart. I wasn't there when it happened, he said. The bomb hit her town. I was on mission, couldn't even bury her. Zherani didn't know what to say. So she placed a hand on his arm. Jake looked at her. You remind me of her sometimes, he said. Not because you look like her, but because you still believe in hope. Zherani lowered her eyes. I stopped believing for a while, she admitted. Jake looked up at the stars. But you didn't give up. No, she whispered. Because you didn't give up on me. The next day, they reached the bunker. It was half buried in the earth, covered in vines and rust. One door was bent open like a broken jaw. Jake held up his rifle and stepped inside first. The air smelled like dust and oil. Inside, rows of crates, old machines, and a radio tower, cracked, but whole. Zherani's heart beat faster. She moved to the panel and pressed a switch. Static. She turned a dial. More static. Jake came beside her and twisted another knob. A green light blinked. A faint voice crackled through. Channel open. Unidentified signal. Repeat. Zherani gasped. It worked. She could contact her people. Go home. Be safe. But her eyes turned to Jake. And suddenly, her heart felt heavy. That night, they sat inside the bunker beside a dim emergency light. Jake didn't speak much. Zherani watched him. She had a choice now, and she wasn't sure what she truly wanted. Luvaxis was safe, beautiful, hers, but Earth had changed her. It had taken so much from her. But it had also given her something, a reason to fight, a friend, a fire inside that wouldn't die. She reached over, took Jake's hand again. Whatever happens next, she said softly, I won't leave without saying goodbye. Jake smiled, his eyes wet. You won't have to, he said. Hook. The sky above Earth split open once more. A silver ship descended through the clouds, smooth and silent, like a ghost made of light. Birds fled. Winds shifted. A strange hum echoed across the trees. Zherani stood at the edge of the old bunker. Eyes locked on the ship. It had come for her. After all the pain. After the poison plants, the monsters, the storms, her people had finally responded. But as the ship lowered its landing struts, she didn't step forward. She stepped back. Jake, standing beside her, noticed. You don't look happy, he said. Zherani's voice shook. I'm not sure I belong with them anymore. Story. The rescue team wore shining armor, eyes hidden behind smooth helmets. Their weapons were clean, their uniforms unscarred. Zherani looked at them, and for the first time, they felt like strangers. One of them scanned her with a device and frowned. Her biology has changed, he said coldly. Long exposure to this planet has altered her system. Another officer narrowed his eyes. She's been corrupted. Jake stepped forward. Excuse me? The officer ignored him. Luvax's command may not accept her as she is. She may need purification. Zherani clenched her fists. Purification? It's protocol, the officer replied. Deathworld contact often results in psychological damage and genetic mutation. Jake growled. She's not damaged, she's alive. Thanks to this world. Thanks to fighting through it. Zherani looked between them, the smooth, perfect soldiers, and the man who had bled beside her. She remembered the girl who had crashed here soft, scared, lost. That girl was gone. In her place stood a survivor, not despite Earth, because of Earth. She turned to the rescue team. Take me home, and you take a stranger. I don't belong to that version of Luvaxis anymore. The officers exchanged glances. You refuse rescue? She looked at Jake. He didn't speak. But his eyes, steady, warm, said everything. I'm not going back, she said. The ship lifted without her. The sky closed once more, and she was still on Earth, still with Jake. In the weeks that followed, Zherani and Jake rebuilt the bunker. They reinforced walls, planted edible roots, made traps for hunting, found working solar panels to power lights. Every day, Zherani felt her body grow stronger. Her lungs adapted. Her skin became tougher. Her reflexes sharpened. She was still alien, but now she was also something more, something new. Jake called it half Earthborn. She liked that. One morning, Zherani stood near the stream, her reflection clear in the water. Her face still bore scars. Her eyes still burned with quiet fire. But now, when she saw herself, she didn't cry. She nodded. I know you, she whispered. You're the girl who didn't die, the girl Earth couldn't break. One night, while stars blinked overhead, Jake and Zherani sat on the rooftop of the bunker. It was quiet. He handed her a warm drink made from boiled roots and leaves. It tasted awful. She loved it. He looked at her. You sure you're okay here? She smiled. I don't want to escape this world anymore. I want to master it. Jake chuckled. Then you're one of us now. Not just human, she said. No. He agreed. Something better. Something Earth made from pain, fire, and fight. And far above, across galaxies, no one on Luvaxis could understand the message she sent days later. Mission failed, but I have survived. And I am not coming home. Earth is not just a death world. It is my forge.